Josh Boerman doing impromptu speaking.
We're just waiting.
Okay, for 8 seconds. And begin. $15. $30 down. $45 down.
For a long period of time, the United States refused to talk to the actual leaders of the newly communist China. They preferred instead to talk to the leaders of the Republic of China, but it actually had no influence whatsoever on the mainland. Our diplomatic strategy toward China was based on the idea that because the Republic of China was more democratic, we should pursue relations with them. After a while, though, this approach became clearly unrealistic. And similarly, China is having to realize that if they want to relate with Tibet, they're going to have to talk to the Dalai Lama first. This editorial says as much, and I completely agree. In order to understand why it is important that China be willing to associate with the Dalai Lama, we need to look at 3 main points. First of all, we'll see how relationships between China and the West are heavily dependent upon a peaceful relationship with Tibet. Secondly, we'll see that it is important that because the Dalai Lama is the only legitimate source of authority within Tibet. Finally, we'll see how China can truly turn around what they've seen as a record of bad human rights by relating with the Dalai Lama. So first of all, we need to take a look at the international pressures that China has been facing so far, and we can realize why it is important that they be willing to talk to the Dalai Lama. Now, much pressure has been put upon the Chinese government thanks to the increasingly harsh relationship between China and Tibet. Tibet is a province within China that is a semi-autonomous region. That is, it is granted some administrative sovereignty, but it is still controlled by the Chinese government. However, the people within Tibet want to have a greater amount of authority over their daily lives. China, however, prefers to have their government maintain strict control, and for this reason, there has not been great solutions within Tibet. Tibetans have attempted to protest Chinese rule, and it has ended in many demonstrations. Unfortunately, these demonstrations have ended in much violence on both sides of the issue, but especially by China, which has been violently cracking down on peaceful protesters. The West has seen this as a dramatic issue that clearly needs to be addressed, and there's only one way to address it. That is, of course, for the mainland Chinese government to talk with the Tibetan government. But in order for this to happen, there needs to be a change in the way that China associates right now with Tibet. Currently, they are unwilling to acknowledge that the Dalai Lama is the true ruler, or at least the true representative of the people of Tibet. They need to do so if they really want to start a good discussion, because the Dalai Lama currently is one of the people who Tibetans look up to the most. Furthermore, right now in China, they're refusing to do so because they believe that it is a threat to their national sovereignty. They refer to the Dalai Lama as a person who attempts to stir up reactionary movements within the government, somebody who threatens Chinese national sovereignty. These seem very out of place and strange when compared with the peaceful leader of Tibet, who has indeed said that he would be willing to step down from his leadership position if it meant that Tibet could have greater autonomy. Clearly, the Dalai Lama is a peaceful leader, but Beijing is unwilling to acknowledge that. Until Beijing is willing to acknowledge the peaceful nature of the Dalai Lama and the intentions of the Tibetan people, they will not be able to make any real progress on this issue. It's imperative that they do so, however, because the pressure is heating up on China to make real changes related to Tibet. As we've already seen, the crackdowns on Tibet have been dramatic. Many people have been jailed for their parts in the protests, and people in the West are seeing this as an example of China abusing their authority once more and overstepping their human rights record. This is especially important in relationship to the Olympics, given that the Olympics were awarded to China on the basis that they would improve their human rights record. Given that they have not yet substantially improved their human rights record, the West is not going to make any real changes in how they associate with China. The United States, for instance, has frequently said that they want to see China take a more open stance toward the situation within Tibet. If they fail to do so, they will not be able to gain the respect of the Western nations, and they will not be able to gain the reputation that they want, which is that of a mature country that is willing to handle its world affairs in a mature manner. Until they do so, they will be seen as simply another rebellious teenager on the world scene, one who has a lot of money but doesn't quite understand how to use its newfound power. So in conclusion, we've taken a look at how the problems within Tibet are related to Chinese crackdowns. We've also seen how China needs to associate with Tibet if they want real change to occur. And finally, we've seen how this change can help improve the status of relationships between China and the West. Just as it was necessary for the United States to associate with the Democratic People's Republic of China, that is, the communist government, in order to have real authority, China is going to have to associate with the Tibetan government if they want to show that their views are being truly represented. Thank you.